Hello, I'm Jeremy, and today I'm going to be talking about a new game from Cosmos, designed by Thomas Singh, by the name of Die Crew. The German subtitle, it means something like, let's travel again together to the ninth planet. It is a cooperative trick-taking game, not a lot of those, that plays between 3 to 5 players. There are 2-player rules in the game, but those definitely change how the game is played, and indeed the box says 3 to 5 players, so consider that a variant at best. That is going to be played over 50 missions, where players are going to be thematically playing space explorers who are going to solve a number of missions, 50 of them in all, in an attempt to, I guess, discover if reports that there's a ninth planet, past Pluto, that's out there. So essentially the game is going to come with a logbook which has story written in it with a number of missions which will tell you the requirements for each mission. So you'll play through these one at a time, recording how many attempts it takes you to clear each of those missions. I should note that the game is published in Germany, and there is only a German rulebook available in the box, but there are translations of this available on Board Game Geek, and the actual components of the game beyond the rules are not language dependent, so you could freely import the game and play it if you just print that logbook off of Board Game Geek. So, like I said, the game, it says here that it's for ages 10 and up, and it says that it takes 20 minutes, and I think realistically you're going to play more than one mission per time that you play this. You'll probably want to play through quite a few of them. So the game session is going to be determined by the number of missions that you're going to play. So I'm going to take a few minutes to show you what a sample round of this looks like, since there aren't a lot of trick-taking games, and then I'll come back and let you know what I think about Die Crew. So the Crew is a trick-taking game, but it has a hook, which is that each round that you're going to play, you're going to have a different mission. And the game is cooperative, with players all trying to complete these 50 missions that are in this book together. And you're supposed to work through these in sequence, because they're going to start relatively easy, but then they're going to have more and more requirements as you go through the game. So, for example, let's just look at mission number 3, so I'm not spoiling anything. And you'll know that this book is in German. In mission number 3, you're going to have to complete 2 mission cards, and you're also going to use the numbers 1 and 2 tiles, which means that the cards will have to be completed in sequence. So what that means is, after you deal out all the cards as evenly as possible among the players, you will then flip. First of all, you'll determine the crew leader. So in this deck of cards, there are 1 through 9 in each of 4 suits. So you can see here like a yellow 9 and a green 7. And then there are also some trump cards, which, like this number 3 here, this rocket, this will win any suit. And those are what's in the deck. So what you'll do is you'll first look at your hand and look who has the 4 rocket, and that person is going to be the commander for this attempt at the mission. So this player here has the 4 rocket. They'll say, I have the 4 rocket to the players. They'll take this little commander icon here, and they will put it in front of them. That means they're going to be the first person to play, as well as the first person to take a mission. So like I said, in this mission, we're going to have to complete, as a group, 2 missions, and we'll have to complete them in order. Number 1, the first one that's flipped out, and number 2, the second one that's flipped out. And the way that you indicate that is, first you'll flip up this card here and put the number 1 with it, and then you'll flip up another card and put the number 2 with it. Sometimes you'll have more missions. I could tell you later missions you can have 10 of these cards come out. But then once you've done this and assigned these, starting with the crew leader, each player going in clockwise order is going to take one of those missions and put it in front of themselves. Of course, they could look at their hand to determine which of those missions they might want to take. So let's say this player sees that they have a lot of those blues, so it might make sense for them to take this blue 5. And then this player, next in clockwise order, has to take this next mission here. So the yellow 9 with the number 2 in it. So that has to be the first mission completed. That has to be the second mission completed. This third player here does not have to take a mission because there's only 2 to go around. So they just have to avoid taking either of those 2 missions. And the way that these missions are resolved is basically a standard trick-taking game. And by that I mean it'll start with the starting player, so the commander. They'll play a card, and then other players, if possible, will have to follow suit for that card. And then the high card will win unless a trump is played. Then the trump will win. So, for example, this player here, they want to take this 5 as the first trick, or the first of these mission tricks that's taken during the game. So what they might do is, since they aren't sure that how many of these blue cards the other players have, they might want to try and get other players to play those blue cards first. And I should note that even though this is a cooperative game, you cannot do anything to discuss what cards you have in your hand with other players. The only means of communication is that you can put a card down in front of you with this communications token. And you can do that at any time before a trick begins. So let's look at this player here. They have the 9 token in front of them, and actually they happen to have the 9 card. So they might want to put that in front of them with the communication token. And there's 3 things that you could do with this. So you simply will play it in front of you, and you can play it as if it was a card from your hand, but it lets other players know that you have this specific card, which is important when you're trying to take cards in a given order. The player could put this icon on the top, which means it's their high card of that suit in their hand, on the bottom, which would mean that's their low card of the suit in their hand, or they could put this in the middle, and just that means this is my only yellow card, for example. So in this case, they want players to know that that is their high number 9. They just basically want other players to know that they have that, so they would be able to take that trick if ever they were leading a suit, or if a yellow suit was led. You can never put a rocket card, I should mention, down in front of you like this, but you could put any other card in front of you. Whenever you do that, the game helpfully provides one of these 2-sided cards that goes into your hand, and this is just a placeholder. So as you're looking through your cards and trying to determine which card you want to play, this is just a reminder, dummy, to look down in front of you. There's a card in front of you, which is actually more helpful than it might first sound. So in any case, this player would want to lead off this trick. So again, they're worried that if they would lead with their 5, a player might be forced to play a 6 or an 8 and take it. So maybe they would lead with their 9. Then this player would have to play a blue card if possible, so maybe they'd get rid of their 6. And then now this player here, if they have a blue card, they have the 8. So this trick was taken. It did not contain either of the mission cards. This player took it here. They simply would retain control and be the next one to lead off the next trick. So this player now saw here that in this hand, the 9, the 6, and the 8 of blue were all played, and they have the 7. So if they want to win the trick with the 5, they know now that the 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all accounted for. So they can safely lead with the 5, and then these players, if possible, will follow suit. So this player will lead with follow with the 3, and this player, they have a blue 1, so they'll play that. So this trick was taken. It included the key card, which was the blue 5 that player was trying to take, and it was taken first. So the player would simply flip this over and indicate that that was done. If ever these are taken out of order, so let's say this trick got taken before this trick, then immediately the players would lose a round. You'd have to do another attempt. And the game scores you by however many attempts it takes you to clear each of the missions. So now that this player has taken care of their mission, they might want to have the other player work on his or her mission. So in this case, you'll notice that they do not have any yellow cards. They couldn't lead with yellow, so maybe they would play a low card in another suit, hoping that this player would be able to get control. This player here, let's see, they have an 8, so they might play that, and then this player here might want to just play their 2 to get rid of that. So now this trick is taken. It did not trigger a mission, so this is still in play, this yellow 9. And now finally this player could play their yellow 9, and then these 2 players, if possible, could follow suit. And with that, so this player does not have a yellow card again, so they could just throw off, so they could just play another card of any color. Or they could play trump if they wanted to, but they don't want to win this trick because this 9 will win this trick, which will then clear this mission. And with that, these players will have successfully completed that mission. So that is how one of the easiest rounds in the game is going to work. So that's like mission number 3 out of 50. And you can see that it requires some anticipation about what possible cards are going to be in each other's hands, but you have very limited ability to communicate to other players what's going to be in your hand. So at the start of the game, you're going to simply have a few of those mission cards, and then maybe have to get them in a certain order with these. This specifically means the first mission cleared has to be cleared with the 1, and then the second one has to be cleared with the 2. Slightly less restrictive are these symbols, which just means this one has to be cleared before this one. You could clear out other missions in between it. So, like for example, if there was a 1 and this one would absolutely have to be first, then this one, and then at any point during the rest of the round, this one. So these are slightly less restrictive than this, which specifically means that needs to be the first cleared mission. And then you have, like I said, these communication tokens. Sometimes those will get affected. There'll be symbols in the rule book here that show, for example, you can't communicate until the start of the second trick. Or this one tells you that whenever you communicate, you can put a card in front of you, but you can't indicate whether it's your low, high, or only card of a given suit. So that would be that symbol. And then there will also be, for example, rules that require you to win tricks with the 9s. All 4 of the 9s have to win a trick. So as the game goes on, it gets more and more complex, and like I said, I don't really want to spoil what is ahead, and there is a little story that you could read before each mission takes place that gives you a little bit of thematic connection to what you're trying to accomplish there. So there are separate rules for 2 players, where essentially each player gets a hand of cards, and then you would lay out 7 cards face down, and then 7 cards face up on top of it, so something like this. And then after the 2 real people play, the commander will be able to pick one of these cards to add to the trick. And then once that trick's resolved, they'll reveal the card underneath if there was one. So that seems a little bit awkward. I haven't played it with 2, but those rules do exist. And then with 5 players, the game gets more difficult, so there are some handicapping rules on certain missions with 5 players. So I would say the sweet spot for this is going to be 3 or 4. The game does also have another handicapping mechanism, which is tied to this token here. At the start of a round, if you look at your cards and you see the missions, and you realize you're just not going to be able to accomplish it, or because if you failed it multiple times already, you could flip this over, and that will enable each player to pass 1 card to either the right or to the left. Each player has to go in the same direction, which could help you get out of situations which are going to be difficult to deal with the missions at hand. Only catch is that this will add 1 attempt to your number of attempts that it took to clear the mission. So it will affect your score, but it could help you get over a tough hurdle. Pretty much that's it. So it's just essentially going to evolve over the course of its 50 missions, and each of them you could take as many attempts as you want. The rules do say that you cap out a score of 10 for a given mission, with the hope of getting the fewest points at the end of the 50 missions as a group. Okay, so that is Die Crew, or as we say, well, we're playing it and losing horribly, Die Crew. It's because we have had some missions that we've really hit a brick wall in my play so far. I've played not all 50 missions of this yet. I've played about 25 of them with the same group of 3. So I guess you could take my opinion as a preliminary one, but I do want to say that this is really a unique and pretty innovative trick-taking game. The cooperative aspect of it makes it feel a lot, and the fact that it's a small card game makes it feel a lot like The Game or Hanabi, which are similar German games in the recent years that have picked up a following, and I think this one's very likely to do the same. I should note that this did just come out at the Essen Game Fair, which is held in Germany, and it topped the Fair Play magazine list of the hottest games at the fair. I mean, you can always take that with a grain of salt, but it does mean that the German audience seems to be responding to this game so far, and it's easy to see why. It's a really unique animal. It does remind me of this other cooperative trick-taking game that I have, which is based on a Japanese game. This is called Trick in Trouble, and this is available in a German-English edition, although also in the original Japanese game. This just came out last year. But cooperative trick-taking games are really few and far between, and I think that this game really does show that it's because of the inherently limited communication that you get in a partnership card game, it really translates well to a cooperative game. You really can't have the problem that exists in a lot of cooperative games where one player is really dictating the rules and the best move to all the other players, because communication is so limited. Even though, ironically, there is somebody who's called the commander for the mission, that's just determined randomly, and then you just have to make do with the limited information that you have. And like Hanabi, which is, I think, almost what this most reminds me of in terms of feel, you really start developing shorthands and like tricks to make sure that the cards come out with your group as you might anticipate that. So really, it takes a few losses, but through those losses you become more adept at communicating non-verbally through your card play. So the game does not allow you to point at cards or anything like that. There's no verbal communication of it. Literally the only communication you're supposed to do is using that radio signal, which does sometimes get jammed in some of the harder missions. So it's really restrictive, so you really have to almost like a bridge partnership, communicate through your play. And because the missions start so easy and just gradually build up over the course of 50 missions, it encourages you to really do that. And really, I think that this is a game that if you're going to play it, you really want to commit to the same group and just play with the same people throughout the game. Because if you bring somebody in 30 missions in or something like that, you probably will have a really hard time bringing them up to the speed of the rest of the group. So I guess what I'll note about the actual gameplay experience itself is that I think the difficulty wraps up nicely. I did not feel that the early missions dragged on too long before it got challenging, and there do seem to be times where you just seem to be dealt the incredibly wrong hand. And I guess in that case, using this chip, which does cost you a point for whatever that's worth, to mitigate that by passing cards, it does help to alleviate that problem somewhat. But if you're not dealt any of a given card, you might not be able to influence the way the hand plays out as much as you might had you been dealt that card. So you have to just tactically deal with what you're dealing with. The fact that there are a trump card in the game, as well as those communication cards, it does help balance out. It doesn't feel like you're flying blind. It does require those skillful communication among the players to deal with certain situations. I think that I really do hope that this comes out in the U.S. Cosmos does have a U.S. publishing arm, and I'm not sure that they've announced this yet for U.S. publication. So unless they do in the near future, I would really encourage you to seek this out. I think this cost me something like 13 euros. I ordered it off of the German Amazon site actually before Essen, and I got it the weekend that Essen was still going on. It just took a few days to get to me. So the game does seem to be very readily available, and I would really encourage you to check it out, especially if you're going to have the same 3 or 4 people that you're going to be able to communicate with or continue to play the game with. So really just a strong family game, or a strong game for people who like trick-taking games but just want one with twist. Again, there aren't many cooperative trick-taking games out there, so it feels very unique. And again, if you like Hanabi, and you like coming up with those conventions within your group, this is really going to be a game for you. So those are my preliminary thoughts on D-Crew, and thank you for watching.